Welcome to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. It's unbelievable that we're still talking about getting returns on Election Day. This is obviously already Thursday evening and heading into Friday tomorrow, and we still have a lot of races where it's not the question of going over counted ballots, but it's literally a question of ballots that are being turned in and finding employees to count them. We had this amazing thing that happened again in Clark County. This is like an episode of Gilligan's Island where you just see the same rerun over and over again, where for some reason they made an announcement late election night they were just going to suspend the counting, and they would get to counting when they could get around to it. And nobody understands this better than former director of the DNI, Ambassador Rick Grinnell. Rick, thanks for joining us. You have been all over the western part of the country while everybody focused on the eastern seaboard. You stayed in the West and really cultivated support for these campaigns. You spent a lot of time with our friend Adam Laxalt, with Kari Lake and others. Let's get right to Nevada quickly. What's your latest take on what's going on?
Here we go again. I mean, we got to fix this problem. I think it's unacceptable for anybody who is in charge to be able to say, oh, we're going to fix it and improve next year. I think they've been given too many opportunities. There needs to be wholesale firings and a gut renovation. You remember, Matt, we had this problem in Florida.
Yep.
Where constantly they couldn't get their act together, county officials. And what happened? Governor DeSantis just came in and started firing people and stopped with hearing the excuses. And I don't think that's too harsh. I actually think it's a gift to the people of Florida when you have somebody who's willing to, of course, take the media hits immediately after you fire somebody because you're attacking democracy. But they never think about it attacking democracy the other way. And so I hope that Governor Lombardo, who I believe will win in Nevada, will absolutely do a gut renovation of what's going on elections. People deserve better. We keep hearing from our friends constantly that election deniers are a threat to our democracy. I had a revelation over the last couple of weeks where I have said, I actually think I'm starting to agree with our friends on the left and in the media. There are certain people who are put in charge of elections who attack our democracy and who are a threat to democracy. And we need to start calling them out. And they're not just people on the Republican side. It's the people who are currently in office.
That's right. If Rick Scott was in this conversation with us, the senator from Florida, former governor, he would say when he was elected governor in these wins that he immediately started firing people. So they had two governors, successful governors in a row, Scott, now DeSantis, fire these crooked people who are running these counties. This is the big problem we face. You first have to win, somehow get into office with these crooked rules. And then when you get in, you have to know immediately what to do. I agree with you on Sheriff Lombardo and Kari Lake in Arizona. They realize what they need to do, I hope, by now. But Nevada, the problem is the Democrats took over every office with one lame-brain Republican as the Secretary of State, and they were able to change almost every conceivable law except for voter ID. That's the critical thing, Rick, right? Which is when we get a chance to govern in these states, we have to go back to some idea of normalcy. We don't want to rig it for us. We just want to follow these rules.
Yeah, I think those are great points. I should start off by saying kudos to Rick Scott, my friend Rick Scott. I certainly didn't mean to dismiss him.
He's sensitive on this one because, you can imagine how much you get so much abuse because you fire a person of color in a county that has a lot of power. But when they're using that power to corruptly adjudicate ballots, this is not acceptable.
I should have been more sensitive to that because I fired the counterterrorism head and didn't get much credit. I got a lot of attacks for it.
Yes, that's right.
But it was the right thing to do. Anyway, you and I spent a lot of time in Clark County. We could write whole books on what's happening. That Harry Reid machine, which we thought was really whimpering and coming to an end, has been rearing its head. They've got people like John Ralston, who, attacked Adam Laxalt for a whole year, told Republicans that they were absolutely going to lose, only to switch his assessment and his analysis, saying, oh, no, there's going to be a big red wave. And now he's back to, we're going to find these ballots in Clark County. Look, we need people to understand that Republicans absolutely want every legal vote to be cast, and that's why we want voter ID. Not because we think in any way there's anyone in America that doesn't have an ID. Stand up if you don't. Raise your hand if you don't have an ID, and we'll get you one. No one wants you to not be able to vote. We just want you to make sure when you're voting, you're not getting multiple mail-in ballots. Let's be honest, the mail-in ballots are a mess.
Yep.
I've been hearing, I mean, I could give you story after story. This is not just one little anecdote. These are every single stop. Someone says, "Oh, I got 2 ballots, one in my maiden name, one in my current name. I got 3 ballots from all the people who used to live in my apartment before me. My mother's been dead for 10 years. I got her ballot." I mean, these voter rolls are a mess, and shame on the media who don't push back, because what you're teaching, there's no better attack on our democracy. There's no greater attack on our democracy than a media that's in the tank for the other side, because what's happening is we see the weaponization of government, the craziness that is going on in the left, on the Democratic side, is all because the referees aren't pushing back against them. So the fouls keep getting more blatant.
A couple of things that are pernicious in Nevada. First thing is it's almost like junk mail, right? Junk mail ballots. When you get Pottery Barn catalogs or whatever else is hot these days, you'll get them for the previous resident, for the current resident, for kids who might have grown up and left the house, a neighbor, yada, yada, yada. So these ballots get out there, and one of the things they did in Nevada is they made ballot harvesting legal. And just so we all understand, the problem with ballot harvesting is one thing if you have like a grandfather or a great-grandfather and he's having trouble with his mobility and you go to him and help him vote. That's what they say the intention was. But there's no like legal document between those two people. So why is there's this wholesale ability for the Democrats to turn in huge numbers of ballots from old folks' homes or from housing projects or from big apartment complexes, places where a lot of people live together? They have a whole knock and drag system to get those ballots turned in. And the second pernicious thing in Nevada is that after the election day, they are still allowing people with not necessarily with postmarks to have ballots go into the count. So that's the other thing. There's no security in all these things. So Rick's right in when he says we want everyone to vote. We absolutely want everyone to vote. Matter of fact, my belief with some of these minority communities is it's going to be good for Republicans if more of them vote, because I think they like a lot of our policies. So there's not an intent to stop people from voting. But Rick, this is the real problem we face now in Nevada. What Adam Laxalt, by the way, it wasn't just Adam Laxalt. It's all these great Republican candidates who are leading these races as we speak. The question is the world able to watch as they count ballot after ballot? And can the world learn why not having a secure process around ballots can create chaos over the course of a week?
Yeah, and I have to bring up the example of Arizona because I just got back from Arizona today, and we'll be going back right away. I had to come home and get some new clothes because I've been on the road for so long. But we have a problem in Arizona, Maricopa County, because they're closing up shop and leaving. This whole idea that you stay and you count votes and you hire a second shift and a third shift and you keep going until you know the results is a foreign concept to these government bureaucrats. Right. They say, "Oh, I leave at 6:30. I might work till 7, but then we close up shop and I'll see you again at 9 a.m. with my coffee." And that's unacceptable. This is not a normal job. This is not just a normal time period. You don't get to take off and take a 1-hour lunch. I'm sorry, but these are elections and this is about our government. You have to work through lunch. You have to hire a second shift. And for these bureaucrats in Maricopa County, Bill Gates was just on, not the famous Bill Gates, but the Bill Gates in Maricopa County. He was just on saying, we may not know the official vote until next week because we're taking our time to make sure it's secure.
Wow.
Well, I'm sorry, when you wait and that long and you go home and you're probably not working the weekends, and you're leaving all those ballots in some room by themselves, that's
It's
unacceptable.
unacceptable.
And it's going to breed restlessness amongst the electorate. And so they have a job to do that they're not doing. I say fire them
I
all.
agree with you, Rick, and I think we should follow the example of what Rick Scott and Governor DeSantis did in Florida, as we previously talked about. I've said a lot of times that I wonder if the State Department would accept the results from other countries if they had this kind of widespread invitation to fraud. You've been a long-standing public servant at the UN, at the State Department. We wouldn't accept this from another, non-third world country.
Not at all. We'd be issuing regular statements on troublesome access to the vote counting, people leaving. We would demand that they stay until we know. And the reality is that it's happening in our own country, and it's happening by the Democrats who are in control of these. Now, I want to also confront this ridiculous idea that they're saying, well, Republicans made these rules and said you can't start counting until the day of. The reason we have those rules is because we don't want there to be a break.
That's right.
In the process. Once you open those boxes, once you start tallying the ballots, do not stop. Don't have a break in the process until you know. Hire multiple teams. I don't understand why we can't just hire more people to do counts. Why do we have to have these machines? We're the technologically advanced country in the world, and yet we can't get this right. And the machine stuff is just not working. I mean, we had a toner problem in Maricopa County.
Yep.
Now, this is the tough questions that we have to start asking of Katie Hobbs. Why didn't Katie Hobbs have a toner problem in the Democratic primary? Why was that election without a toner problem, and then suddenly when she's running these elections, which she refused to recuse herself, there's a toner problem? Come on. I'm not stupid.
So, the Democrats have roughly a 3-1 advantage on the knock and drag early vote because they want to, let's face it, they vote for a lot of the people for them. It's part of what ballot harvesting is, and they vote early. We have this overwhelming advantage on Election Day. Last time we had all these controversies around Arizona about different problems. This year, it was just outrageous what happened at these polling sites. Some people went to 2 and 3 polling sites. They couldn't cast their ballot. We'll never know who didn't vote on Election Day. Never know. And is it purposeful? Is it not purposeful? Well, some lawyers should ask some questions because this is completely unacceptable. Rick, I know the whole CPAC community wants to know how they can help in both these really important states. I know you'll tell us as the hours tick by what they can do to help. But I think the biggest thing I'd just like to say to you as we let you get back to doing your laundry and getting your dry cleaning, which I know what that's like. Sometimes those are hard things to get done, is thank you for ringing the bell the last time, because we were all attacked as being election deniers, yada, 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 every other slur. We did it because it shouldn't ever happen in a free country. And then when you see the potential for some of these things being replicated or counties falling into these bad habits again, I do think the American people, at least half of it, have woken up to the fact that we've got to win these elections and change these laws and then enforce these laws uniformly, no matter what someone's politics are.
Well, thanks for saying that, because I know you take the hits too. We took a lot of hits together in Nevada. But look, the Democratic playbook right now is to do 2 things. One, silence you, scare you into being silent, and crush any dissenting voice. Yeah. And so when you step up and you ask tough questions, that's the American way.
That's right.
My mom will tell you that in 2nd grade, she would always hear from the teacher saying, he asks a lot of questions as to why. and I grew up, and so I'm still asking the questions why. When things don't make sense, ask why. Push back.
That's right.
That it can't be said enough. That's a very pro-American thing to do. And when you have a dissenting voice, when you want to stand up and say, I don't think that this is true, the Democratic Party of the past, the tolerant group, was supposed to say, let's hear every voice, let's let these people speak. And now what they do is they want to crush dissent. That's what they did on the January 6th committee. They created a whole committee without a single dissenting voice. They mocked us when we were in Nevada for asking tough questions. They said, sit down, you don't know what you're talking about. They're trying to crush dissent. I just want to say to people in the CPAC community, take a lesson from all of these people who have been told to sit down and shut up. And you have a right to your voice and to ask questions. That is the American way. I'm asking those questions. I hope people will follow me on Twitter at Richard Grinnell, and then on Truth at Grinnell. I'm trying to ask tough questions all the time.
Keep asking those questions, and you let us know when it's time to hop an airplane. I think if they, I just want to put these Democrats on notice. If they think they can run the same plays they did last time, which I think defrauded Donald Trump on a legal victory in Nevada, they're going to understand this time there's a lot more people that are going to be coming out there to ask the questions you're saying, Rick.
Absolutely. Thanks for
All right,
having me,
we'll talk again soon.